Good morning and welcome to the Veteran Wellbeing Summit. My name is Jackie Vanderveld and I'm a board member of Wellbeing Australia and a member of the organising committee for the Veteran Wellbeing Summit, and it's my great pleasure to be hosting this session today with the Veterans Employment Program for the New South Wales Government. So in keeping with Wellbeing Australia's vision to support an environment where all Australians are engaged, motivated to learn and develop and are proactive in managing their own wellbeing, we are gathering stories and people who have success in promoting veteran wellbeing, mental health and suicide prevention. And meaningful work is one of those protective factors. Before I hand over the microphone to our presenters today, I've got a couple of housekeeping items regarding the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, it will be available on demand, and after a little while we'll have it accessible on the website as well, so you can share that with your networks. We'd love to hear from you during the presentation, and if you do have a question for our panel, please put that question in the Q&A tab down the bottom. We'll get to those towards the end of the session, and if we don't get an answer to your question today, we will make sure that we follow up with you afterwards. Lastly, we encourage you to share today's presentation with your social networks using the hashtag BWS2020. So, handing over to Craig Delaney and Megan Banton. And Craig, I'll let you do the intros for everybody from here.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and thank you for everyone for taking the time today to listen into a very important topic. My name is Craig Delaney. My nickname is Dallas. I spent 30 years in the Australian Army, so I get confused sometimes between Craig and Dallas. I try and reinvent myself each job I go to and introduce myself as Craig, and Dallas very quickly catches up. And also, I'd like to introduce you to Meg Banton. Meg, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hi, I'm Meg. I work with Craig on the Veterans Employment Program. That's all I got, Craig.
Thank you very much, Meg. I'll talk a little bit more about myself on the way through, one of my favourite topics, but I'd like to quickly take you on this journey this morning. So the New South Wales Government Office for Veterans Affairs runs our Veterans Employment Program, but just to tell you a little bit of history about the Office for Veterans Affairs, we are nothing to do with the Department of Veterans Affairs at the federal level. We are the New South Wales Government Office for Veterans Affairs. We work at the state level. We manage the state programs commemorating and assisting veterans. We ensure our veterans past and present are honoured with dignity, and we listen to the voices of veterans. We also support veterans and veteran organisations and networks in the broader community regarding education, commemoration and support for veterans and their families. This is not changing. There you go. In the Office for Veterans Affairs, we're broken down into four specific areas. We have events and communications that obviously look after commemorative activities. We have a policy and programs area where we've actually started to develop the first veterans strategy in the country for any government organisation. We've run a survey which was followed up by forums, which is now being followed up with consultation with all the key stakeholders, and that'll hopefully be produced early next year. We partnered with Services New South Wales to develop a landing page for veterans, so veterans can understand specifically what concessions and rebates are available for them. I personally did 30 years in the military, and I didn't know what was available as a DVA. I mentioned the word DVA, but a DVA white card holder, and I didn't understand the concessions available. You can ring up for a 1-hour appointment with Services New South Wales, and they'll specifically tailor that conversation to help you understand the concessions and rebates that may be available, or if they're not available to you, you may be able to help your friends, relatives, peers, further veterans, etc., to understand exactly what it is. We look after the Anzac Memorial up in Hyde Park. If you haven't been there after the recent renovation back in 2018, 2019, please go up there and have a look. It is a magnificent site to go to and remember. And here we're to talk about today the Veterans Employment Program and Education, which is run by Meg and myself. I'm a veteran. I know I'm a veteran. I became a veteran, I guess, when I joined the Army, anyone that served one day in uniform. But the term veteran to me, I never called myself a veteran. I'm 55 years old. I've been on operations, and I never called myself a veteran. I thought veterans were the older generation. men and women that served in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, that led the dawn services, that led the marches on Anzac Day. I thought of them as veterans. But then I realised I was a veteran myself when I joined the program back in 2018. But I find it very difficult then. The young men and women these days, the average time served in defence is 6 to 8 years, not 30 years like myself. It's 6 to 8 years that they serve. Majority of them have been overseas. They are veterans. They are the young men and women that we are trying to help through the Veterans Employment Program. Of course, we're trying to help all veterans, but specifically these men and women that have served 6 to 8 years and they don't know what they do know. Defence has spent over $300,000 training soldiers, sailors and airmen throughout that 6 to 8 years. $350,000 if they're an officer. A specialist officer, a pilot is even more. But they don't know that the soft skills that they have, punctuality, loyalty and commitment, courage, initiative, respect and teamwork, the key words they've been taught in their defence time are valued so much by employers, both government and civilian. So we are trying to help those men and women. Excuse me. The background to our program. Back in 2015, the start of the centenary of Anzac, the minister went down to a group of guys and girls at Bondi Beach, veterans, and said, what can we do to help you during the centenary of Anzac? And they said, please try and level the playing field when we apply for roles. We don't want any handouts from the government. We would just like people to understand what we've done and what our skills and attributes are. So the New South Wales government set about setting up the first Veterans Employment Program of any state and territory. Our director, Carolyn Mackinnis, and Garth Callender, who's a legend, a veteran himself, set up the initial Veterans Employment Program for New South Wales government. They established a figure of 200. It was just an arbitrary figure. They didn't know how many veterans they were going to get, but they wanted to create that awareness of veterans. So the figure was set, and by the end of the centenary of Anzac, Remembrance Day 2018, it was announced 831 veterans had found new roles in New South Wales government. So the Premier then said, right, I would now like you to find a realistic target, 1,000 veterans by 2023, having found 831. So the account was zeroed, and we started again, 0 veterans, but hire 1,000 by 2023. As of March this year, we'd hired 644 veterans in the first 18 months of the count period. And to note, we try and get 125 veterans every 6 months. And luckily, in that period, the last 6 months, we got 125. We're still waiting on our figures this year. But that was when the horrific bushfires were in New South Wales over the Christmas period and the first month of COVID. So to get 125 veterans when we usually average 137, just 12 under, but 125 was fantastic. And we look forward to continuing our progress. And the words there of the former Minister for Veterans, David Elliott, who was a veteran himself. He's hopeful the shift in public sector attitudes towards veterans are followed. Our mission statement. The Veterans Employment Program, New South Wales Government, our mission statement is to be a leader in the field of veterans employment. Other states and territories have all followed suit, and at the federal level, they've now established the Prime Minister's Veterans Employment Program. All other states and territories in Australia have a veterans program, less Tasmania, that is in the process of setting one up. Our strategy. We are a communications platform. We're here to attract veterans to New South Wales Government, to let them know New South Wales Government understand their skills and attributes. There's 400,000 people in New South Wales Government. Meg and I, as a team of 2, are out there, but we're trying to multiply. So we've got the Champions Network that assists us by growing it. And we're also there to educate employers and hiring managers within New South Wales Government. That is, we go out to recruiters, we go out to hiring managers and tell them the skills and attributes that veterans have. I give them a presentation very similar to what I'm giving this morning to explain what veterans are capable of. And hopefully that veterans out there can use the words I'm using to take it away, to share their own stories. And as I said, build a Champions Network. We've got about 250 hiring managers, human resource people and veterans themselves that can assist us. And I'll talk more about Champions later. The initial hurdles. We're the first of type, as I said, first state or territory to set up a Veterans Employment Program. There was limited information available. We didn't understand the landscape of veterans in New South Wales. We had to collaborate with everyone and we had to educate everyone about what is going on, and we still continue to do that today. Our first partner was the Australian Defence Force, and as the majority of you will understand, I try and explain the rank system to the government, and feel free to use this if you want to yourself. It's a very simple process, breaking it down into a quadrant. You have the strategic level of defence. The Chief of Defence Force, Angus Campbell. He's the head of defence, obviously, but he's the head of the strategic thinking people in defence there. We have in the ranks of defence, Navy on the senior service, Army and Air Force. You have the strategic level of defence. In government, these are equivalent to your ministers, your secretaries, your executive directors and your directors. They come up with all the strategic policy of defence. They are the equivalent that will make it work. They have the dream to do it. We then have the good-looking roosters like myself. I didn't always wear a cravat. That was when I worked in Sudan. The middle-ranking officers of defence. We take the strategic plan of the senior leadership and turn it into operational outcomes. I was the Australian contingent commander in Sudan, the senior logistic advisor to the United Nations. I took the United Nations strategic plan to move the mission from North to South Sudan when it became the newest country in the world. I moved 7,000 people and 30,000 tonnes of cargo, but I didn't do that all myself. So as a middle-ranking officer, we take the strategic plan and turn it into operational outcomes. We have the support of the backbone of defence, as I say, the men and women, the senior non-commissioned officers and the warrant officers. They are the supervisors and foremen. They are the men and women you see in the movies running around making it happen. And then you have the worker bees, the 75% of defence, the soldiers, sailors and airmen who actually work in small teams of 5 to 10 personnel, and they make things happen. The supervisors and foremen direct them, and then the soldiers and sailors and airmen do it. And as I say these days, they are given mission orders. They're not given specific orders. Mission orders might be to take this cup of coffee to the man in security out the front, to break it down very simply. They know the mission is to take the coffee to the man at the security because he's thirsty. If they can't get out the front door, they'll go out the back door. If they can't go out the back door, they'll go abseil down the building. They will get there as part of their team. If they spill the coffee on the way, they know the mission, the guy is thirsty, so they want to give him a drink. So they'll say to someone in the team, who's got a water? Okay, they've satisfied the task. They will think outside the box to solve the problem. As long as they don't breach safety, you might have 10 business steps to do something. They might say, it's not smart to use 10, let's use 8. We can do that, not breaching safety. Generic skills of veterans. These were broken down by the Research and Development Corporation, the RAND Corporation in the US. The most recognised skills of veterans: leadership, dependability, integrity, loyalty. I say veterans are adaptable and trainable. All you need to do is give them a left and right of arc and they will solve the problem for you. These men and women here are veterans. None of these are paid actors. It's on our website. Majority of veterans go what we call to traditional roles, a uniform to a uniform role. We have fire and rescue, emergency services, police, corrections, and the sheriff's office. The bottom line there are our directors, our managers, our project managers, our administrative assistants. We're trying to get more people to realise veterans have the skills and attributes to do those administrative, project and management type roles, but also we encourage them as traditional roles too. Development of the program. So as I said, we partnered with the Defence Force. We know today, as we're sitting here, there's about 23,000 uniformed veterans or uniformed personnel working in the state of New South Wales. Nationally, there's 5,000 to 6,000 personnel leaving Defence every year. Of that 5,000 to 6,000, about 1,200 return to a New South Wales postcode on discharge. And I say that they return, they might come to New South Wales as their place of enlistment, the place where their loved one comes from, the place where their partner's parents are from, their ageing parents, or it might be the last safe place their children went to school. And of interest to note, there's about 10% that go regionally in New South Wales. That's important later when I talk about local government as well. We partnered with the Public Service Commission. On every application for New South Wales Government, there is a drop-down box, yes, no, or not specified, to articulate you are a veteran. It is up to you to tick the box, yes, no, or not specified. And there's a line there to say that New South Wales Government values the skills of veterans. It's very important that that's put out there so veterans understand that we do recognise their service. Here's some statistics. It's all available on our website, but in the last 18 months, you can see the 644 veterans. As I said, uniform to uniform, traditional roles, the Stronger Communities Department, the Justice Department, that's where we are, that's where the uniforms are, so 360 of the 644. But interesting to note that the Transport New South Wales has 112. That's traditionally bus drivers, train drivers, but also project managers. And all this information is available on our website under the reports we write every 6 months. Here's some information from our report. It shows us that there were 7,500 applications. It shows the success rate of veterans, the gender, the level of roles. And as I said, all this information is available in the reports we have on our website as well. Just follow the links. Our website. It's very powerful, and hopefully a lot of you will have a look at the website. If you haven't looked at the website, there's a number of tools on the website. There's transition stories of veterans and videos. And as I say, they're actual veterans. They're not paid actors and actresses. And we used to call them case studies, but we found transition stories. Everyone has a transition story when they leave defence. There's links to supporting organisations. So further support on our website if you need additional support. There's links to other states and territories too that do veterans employment programs too. So if you don't want to roll the New South Wales government, you can look at Victorian government, West Australian government, etc. There's our capability definition tool, and there is the ADF rank grade guide. The rank grade guide is an extremely powerful tool. It is self-selection. Veterans can go on our website and look at the rank to grade guide. They put their service in, Army, Navy, Air Force. Then it is self-selection. They put the rank down that they would be if they were still in defence today. So it's pretty easy if you're doing it on discharge, but just remember, if you've been paid HDA and you're ready for promotion, put yourself up a level because you're qualified to do that sort of role. Alternatively, if you got out 10 years ago and you've done a degree and got some experience in life and education, or promotions at work, that you might no longer be that private soldier. You might be a sergeant, you might be a captain, you might be a lieutenant colonel. It is self-selection for you to put in there. But you put that rank in there and it will generate every job that is currently advertised on I Work for New South Wales at that level. You can narrow that search down and say, I'd like a job on the North Coast, the South Coast, or the CBD. I'd like a job in security. I'd like a job in project management. I'd like a job in logistics. And that will all put the keywords in there to help you identify what jobs are available at that level in New South Wales government. Our capability definition tool. On every role at the bottom of the application, there is the link to the capability definition tool that tells you, what level you need to be at on the focus capabilities. Focus capabilities are bolded. So if we go over the here page, under personal attributes, acts with integrity at the adept level. Relationships, communicate effectively at the adept level. Relationships, works collaboratively at adept level. The bolded ones are the focus capabilities. You need to either be at that level or above that level to start the role. So when you go through the application process, you need to justify and clearly articulate that you are at or above that level. The ones that are not bolded, you can actually learn those once you get the role and continue forward. So what you do with the capability definition tool is you put all that information in the tool, and it then generates, on the right-hand side are example questions that you may be asked at interview. So the hiring managers, human resource personnel use these tools to look at what questions they should ask you to bring out works collaboratively at the adept level. On the job advertisement, there is this information on the left-hand side, the definition of the behavioural indicator. So we have put all the information here for hiring managers and applicants in the one shop, so everyone can use this information to help tailor their applications. So when you write a cover letter for New South Wales government, you write the cover letter and you provide your CV. Your cover letter should address the capability definitions. So therefore, we tell veterans, give an example of how you helped a colleague who's under pressure. My name's Craig Delaney. I did 30 years in the military. Against the New South Wales capability framework, I either meet or exceed the focus capabilities. under relationships works collaboratively. I can give you an example of a colleague that I helped who was under pressure, and using the key verbs and adjectives on the left-hand side to encourage a culture, to build cooperation. So you're using those key verbs and adjectives, and then you're putting an example of what you've done throughout your military time in civilian speak with no acronyms. The local government rank grade guide. This is another tool we've established in partnership with the Office of Local Government New South Wales, and the United Services Union. There's 45,000 positions in local government throughout New South Wales. There are 128 locations. I tell local governments when I'm talking to them, if every local government in New South Wales hired one veteran, that would be 128 veterans employed per year. And I explain a brigade in the military as being a small city. As you know, brigades have approximately 5,000 people. I do say Army, Navy and Air Force in a brigade. Those brigades are situated in Darwin, Townsville and Brisbane, and they can deploy anywhere in the world if required. A brigade, as part of the lead-up training and build-up, they will deploy from the barracks environment to a greenfield site. They will set up track plans, which are roads. They'll set up communications facilities. They will set up hospitals. They'll set up policing facilities. Of course, they've got warfighting capability, but what I say to local councils is if you remove the weapon and the uniform from a veteran, you have everybody employed in your local council. You have your CEO, you have your man or woman on the front desk, you have your garbage truck drivers and your bus drivers. Every job is available from Defence personnel. Not every person in Defence can do that, but every person is qualified at that level. They just need to find the right role that suits them in local government. If you're looking for roles in local government, have a look on the search engines, Seek, Local Government Assist, LinkedIn, and specifically the local council web pages. A lot of local councils do not advertise throughout national bases or on job search engines. They will be at the specific council website where you need to look. So just log onto your local council, look on the employment page and you'll find the roles there. We're also working to promote our rank grade guide with local councils, and Lake Macquarie City Council, I'm very proud of them, were the first to set up their own little veterans employment program. There's a note on their website to say they value the skills and attributes of veterans, and they've agreed that if a veteran applies for a role, that they will, if the veteran has the courage to ring up and ask for feedback, they will give them honest, constructive feedback on that application. And I'll talk more about that later when I explain to the Champions Network. Our education program. We've partnered with TAFE New South Wales, who has a ranks to recognition program where veterans can take in their PM Keys print or the printout of all their courses and qualifications. We encourage veterans to first of all go to the civil recognition project that Defence runs out of Western Creek. But once they've got their civil recognition of qualifications from Defence, they can go to TAFE New South Wales and enter the rank to recognition program. And TAFE will assist them understanding what recognition they can get on any courses, what courses may suit them if they want to choose a new vocation, and then they can study through that. TAFE will then advise them if there's any concessions they can get in New South Wales. If veterans should have applied for the transition schemes, which used to be CTAS, Career Transition Assistance Schemes, which is now the Defence Force Transition Program, and they can get any funding through that. If they can't get any funding through that, and they can't get any concessions through New South Wales Government, then they can apply to our education program. And that is open to veterans who have got out in the last 5 years, and they can choose from any one of the 1,400 courses that are available on the Smart and Skilled program in New South Wales. We've had veterans doing from Cert 1s, Certificate 1s through to advanced diplomas. Some of the courses have been nursing, counselling or electrotechnology and the like, but we can talk more about that later. Social media. That's the beauty of having me as the old guy and Meg as the young person, that Meg understands social media and she runs all our social pages. She does a phenomenal job and I can't thank her enough. She looks after Facebook. We've got over 2,500 followers, setting up an account under LinkedIn. We're just getting that off the ground, and we've got Instagram. I believe that they're called our handles. So they're our handles if you're looking for us out there. Facebook, what we've tried to do is we encourage our Champions Network to use our Facebook site to advertise their roles. Here's an example that Fire and Rescue used us to advertise for firefighters recently. And of the posts we put up, we had 731 reached and 85 engagements. But what I'm looking at from Fire and Rescue is for them to come back to us and say, okay, that's the analytics that we gave you. How many veterans actually applied? And they can check the numbers from the tick the box, and they can say we had 5 veterans apply. They can tell me that we had 5 veterans that applied, 2 got through to interview, 1 actually made it as a firefighter. And I'll say to them, okay, of the 4 that weren't successful, how many rang up and asked for feedback? Because once again, a veteran's got to take control of their own applications. The veteran needs to ring up the person on the point of contact and say, could you please give me some information why I didn't get a role? And what I say to Fire and Rescue, or what I say to any hiring manager, is give that veteran honest, constructive feedback. Don't give them feedback. If they have the courage to ring you up and ask why they didn't get the job, a veteran has served the country. The least you can do is give them 10 minutes of your time to give them some honest, constructive feedback, and be honest with them. Veterans appreciate honesty. You can say, I haven't seen your application. It didn't make the cut. I'll call for it from the pile, from the recruiters. Okay, I've now got your application in front of me. I'll give you a call next week and, give you 10 minutes of my time. And they can say your cover letter was rubbish. You didn't answer the question against the New South Wales Capability Framework. Or you said my name was Billy Jones and I want a job after doing 10 years in defence. You didn't set it out as explained that you should identify against the Capability Framework. You might have said that you wanted a job as a project manager and communications specialist. And the hiring manager can say, I could see you clearly articulated you've done project management courses, but I didn't understand that the communicator that you said here in your application, you're a signaller in defence. You didn't articulate that a signaller is a communications specialist. So therefore the veteran can take that away, and they know for their next application, if they're applying for a project management role or a communications role, they need to clearly articulate their defence skills are equal to or above the skills they are looking for. Instagram and LinkedIn, these are the pages, and we've recently launched Meg's recently launched a new range of tiles that are all colour branded and that sort of stuff, and it's all lined out there. Working with hashtags to improve it, and as I said earlier, we're looking for more of a future on LinkedIn because we understand a lot of roles are out there. But we'll continue to use Facebook as our primary source and then build into LinkedIn. But if you're not following us on Facebook, please follow us on Facebook, 2,500 followers. We'd like to get the word out there as much as possible. So we currently run a 2-day workshop. We did a successful pilot in June. The workshop teaches veterans not how to write their CVs. We expect a veteran to come with their CV. So they've done part of the JSP, their job search preparation courses in defence as they're getting out, development of CVs. So they come to us with a CV, and they come to us with an open mind of how to apply against the New South Wales Capability Framework. We explain the public sector application process. The majority of veterans, if you've done 6 to 8 years as a young guy or girl and you've got out, you may not have done an interview since you got into defence. So we're teaching them about the interview process. As I said, we ran a successful online pilot in June 2020. There's some quotes from some veterans, and I'll just give you a moment to read those. So when we ran the pilot, we had 15 students on the course, and probably the workshop, the 15 students on the workshop, I'd say probably of the 15, we had 6 that were genuinely looking for roles. The others were there to give us the constructive feedback and help us with the development of the workshop. But so of the 6 that were genuinely looking for roles, we had 1 veteran who's actually picked up a role. It was a sergeant that has picked up a role in the New South Wales Telco Authority. So having 1 get a role since June was fantastic. We had another veteran who'd been applying for director roles, and he'd put in 42 applications and not got to interview once. Post the workshop, he put in 2 applications and got to interview twice. He didn't win a role, but he actually has the formula now of how to write an application that will get him to interview. So we're very grateful that we had, I guess, 2 successful candidates out of the 6. We'll continue to touch base with the other 4 to find out how they're going, but we had a very good success rate. If anyone's interested in the workshop, if they contact us on the Veterans Employment Program at the end of this, we may have 2 slots available. We're running a workshop tomorrow and Wednesday, Tuesday the 27th and Wednesday the 28th. So we may have 2 slots available, but if you contact us in a hurry, we may be able to get you onto that. It's an online workshop run from the comfort of your own home. Our Champions Network, as I mentioned earlier. So Champions are a force multiplier to Meg and myself. We are the 2 that run the Veterans Employment Program, and then we have a Champions Network out there. We have about 250 people within that help us gain an insight into departments throughout government. We have veterans amongst them, we have recruiters, we have hiring managers, we have anyone that is prepared to help veterans. We identify veterans in their workplace. We have veterans out there running a rudimentary mentoring program that can help us. For instance, if a veteran is looking for a role in education, I have a veteran who is a school teacher who served in the Defence Force and then did teaching and now is a qualified teacher. And he is happy to share his journey and his experience with other veterans that would like to do teaching. So we do that sort of stuff. And then when I sign up hiring managers, I always ask them, I say, you know, what's a great question that someone has asked at interview? So when you sit at an interview and they say, have you got any questions for us, rather than sit there and just not answer it, that they help us. So we have questions shaped from that. Excuse me. They've told us, pardon me, ask about the team dynamic, ask about the culture, ask about if you win the role, what you'll be doing in 12 months' time. But these are questions that make you stand out from other candidates, and hopefully you can use those moving forward. We also encourage people to ring the hiring manager or the point of contact on the application. So if there's a phone number there, ring that person. But don't ask them a silly question like, could you please tell me when the application's closed? Because they're busy people. If you want to put yourself out there, ring them and say, my name's Billy Brown, and I used to work in defence. I'm not quite sure if I'm qualified to do this position. This is what I've done. Do you think it would make me competitive at interview? Why did the last person leave the role? Is the position currently filled? So it gives you an understanding of whether you should put an application in or not, or whether you think your skills and attributes are up to it. And then I'd just like to say the talent is out there. Veterans have so many skills and attributes. People need to understand it. So as hiring managers, human resource personnel, look beyond the veteran and see what they've done throughout their military careers. I'll now open the floor up to any questions, and thank you for your time. Hopefully I can stop sharing this and we're away. Questions?
Terrific, and we do have questions. So first one is from some rehab workers who are managers who are online. Can they link into the VEP office for assistance with information for some of their clients?
Yes, most definitely. Our information, the website, I think you've either put the link out there or it's on our website. But VEP, www.vep.veterans.newsouthwales, it's all there.
Terrific. Okay, so I think we've answered their question. We've got a question in the chat from someone who is saying, hi Craig, what can we all do to change the script from veterans being someone injured to anyone who has served in uniform? There is a perception in the community that veterans are the old men and women leading the Anzac parade Anzac Day parade each year.
Well, we just need to try and change that as a nation for people to understand that. And I think I summed that up when I put the photo of me up at the front, that I didn't realise I was a veteran at the start, and now we're trying to educate younger men and women. So I think we need to try and change the terminology everywhere. But does that answer the question there, or there was another part to it? Sorry.
No, I think that was it. It was the last part was more of a comment, but yeah, no, you're right. I think I hate to tell you, Craig, but we are getting old.
Well, thank you. I know.
There you go. I hate to tell you that. Where would veterans go for concessions? You mentioned concessions.
Oh, please. Yes, there's the Services New South Wales landing page is a fantastic tool, and they will actually give you a 1-hour consultation if you want to log on there and speak to Services New South Wales. And there's also another organisation that's being put together by Matt Brennan out there, ServuLink, that is becoming a one-stop shop for all concessions nationally. So he's actually giving a presentation, I think, later today, so it's probably worth having a look at that.
So ServuLink is on at 11:30. So the rego links, if you haven't already registered for that one, do so. We're starting at 11:30 Sydney time for that one.
But back to the Services New South Wales link, if you go on our webpage and then you go under Veterans Further Support, New South Wales Government, it will then take you to the Services New South Wales landing page.
Terrific. With TAFE, what are the most popular courses that veterans have undertaken?
I think I'll defer to Meg on this one, but just so that people can understand that in the workshop the other day, in June, we had a number of questions about veterans as project managers, because that is probably one of the strongest skills that veterans have, their ability to manage a project or do a job. Unfortunately, not a lot of veterans are qualified as project managers, but every soldier, sailor or airman or officer has organised a unit barbecue since they've been in defence. Everyone has organised something. They know that they have a budget to deal with. They know that they have to divide the tasks out to team members to their strongest suits. So they've all managed projects. I would say that if you can get any qualification in project management, it will carry you forward. But Meg, please add further to that.
So definitely project management is one of the most popular courses, along with training and education, whether it be a Cert 4 or diploma. That being said, we have also funded winemaking, we've funded building design, nursing. There's 1,400 courses to choose through TAFE, and we fund. If you can present a good argument as to why you want to conduct training in that area, we will fund up to the value of $4,000.
That's huge. So it's not just training for employment within the government, within New South Wales government. It's maybe someone who's wanting to start their own business or
I will also add, it is grants funded program. We are about to opening the funding again on the 16th of November for semester 1 next year. So it is a grants application the veteran does have to fill out. We do have a limited amount of funds. And you can only apply once. So we recommend whatever you want to study, you choose the most expensive course and you apply through it for us. Because if you apply for a course that's only $2,000, that's your turn exhausted.
Okay, thanks, Meg.
And we do recommend that veterans go through the Defence Force Transition Program. Anything Defence will fund up front. Use Defence's funding, and then if you want to do a subsequent course, do the course through us. As Meg said, $4,000 funded for that. And it's any one of the 1,400 under the New South Wales Government Smart and Skilled program that are there. And if you've got out in the last 5 years, we can't look after current serving personnel or anything like that. That is Defence's responsibility. But we will assist once they've got out, and it is it's not means tested, but it is tested. It's an application scholarship, and they're graded on veterans' needs.
Great. And so just keeping with the training theme for a little bit, for another question, the courses, are they online or do they need to show up at a TAFE venue?
It really does vary depending on what course you want to study. That's more of a question for TAFE than for us. I will note though, COVID has changed the way we do a lot of things, and in my opinion, a lot more courses are going online, but definitely a question for TAFE.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. So question in the chat, Dallas, what's your message to veterans who don't succeed in the first time applying for a new role? Should they just throw in the towel or should they keep on applying, and how important is resilience as a value held by veterans?
Resilience is totally important, and to be brutally honest, I couldn't tell you how many jobs I applied for, I lost count. That being said, I do encourage all veterans to develop a spreadsheet. And as you know, the project management stuff, develop that spreadsheet and have the person that you've applied for the role with, the point of contact, their phone number, the date, what feedback they've given you, and develop that spreadsheet the whole way through. And it is all about resilience and applications and who might give you feedback and who doesn't give you feedback. But at the end of the day, you know, in defence, we never give up. Never give up. I mean, you know, veterans can call me on our 1300 number and we'll always chat and that sort of stuff. And it's just chatting to someone that understands you, that gives that little bit of motivation to keep going. And I think the thing is, it's resilient that I think some hiring managers are intimidated that they don't know what you've done. And when you are a very proud veteran and you don't really like to talk about what you've done or brag about what you've done, and you understand working as part of a team, that you're part of that team. And we can't say, you know, I did this and I did that, and, you know, I moved the 7,000 people and 30,000 tons of cargo. It's we did that, we did this. But you need, when you apply for roles, to say I. And they say there's no I in team, but there's a lot of I's in individual initiative. Veterans have that individual initiative. They need to be proud of what they've done and they need to own it. They need to say, I did this, and not give up.
Excellent advice. And I think, you know, from previous discussions we've had, it's about treating your job search as a project in itself, and project manage yourself into a new job. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing to remember in the job search is COVID. You know, there's a lot more people. Craig and I got some stats a couple of weeks ago for one mid-range project manager role. There was over 200 applications for one role. So this is standard. So to use our tools, make your application sign, and don't get disheartened by the process. The jobs are out there. Veterans are being employed. You've just got to keep putting in the applications.
Yep, and learn from each one. Yeah.
And
yep.
One thing, if I haven't emphasised, sorry, Meg, I do apologise.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't emphasise is that the roles we put up on Facebook are given to us by hiring managers, human resource personnel that understand veterans. So follow us on Facebook, yes. If the feed comes up that a job is advertised on our Facebook site, that is the clear indication to you, apply for the job. You will be understood. But if you don't make it through to interview, ring up and ask that hiring manager, human resource personnel for honest, constructive feedback. If you don't get that feedback, contact us, because they've made a commitment to me that they're going to support veterans. Veterans serve the country. Least they'll do is give them 10 minutes of your time. If they don't give you that feedback, come to Meg and myself and we'll chase them up and find out. And if they're not going to do what they say they will, I don't want them as a champion, because they're not going to support veterans as we need it.
Yep. Awesome. Now we've got a question here going back to local government, and some of this you touched on and answered, but I think it'd be good to go over it again. How did you engage local governments, or do you still have a way to go? And did you develop a face-to-face roadmap?
We've been very fortunate that the Office of Local Government is a New South Wales government organisation that helps us tap into local governments. We've been supported by Local Government New South Wales, the association, and spoken to hiring managers, human resource personnel from local governments. And then there is a gentleman by the name of Stephen Hughes, who works for the United Services Union, that looks after local governments, unions, etc. Steve is a veteran himself, and he deals with HR people and all of that. So when he's going around, he will try and help us promote the program. So we've done the local government rank to grade guide, where veterans can see what roles they should be applying for. And then Steve Hughes is actually speaking to the human resource hiring manager people that gives me a contact, and I will talk to them. And if they wish to proceed with a veterans program, as Lake Macquarie has done, and there's 3 or 4 other local governments at the moment thinking about going forward and developing programs, that is how we've done it.
Okay, thank you. And then some supplementary questions from the same person. Have you included rehabilitation providers and wellbeing supports as wraparound supports to ensure those with an element of disability or incapacity are not excluded in employment pathways?
So Lake Macquarie City Council has included veterans as part of their diversity program. So disability, diversity, they're all together. We are New South Wales government. We understand disability and diversity, but we are New South Wales government. So we're working with New South Wales government diversity and disability programs. And with that, and with other places like Right Management that do the transition for defence, and Soldier On, and anyone else that's looking after disabilities, we work with them, but it's not quite that same partnership because they're civilian organisations. But we will not discriminate. We will try and help. But as I say, we're only two people, Meg and myself. But we try and work with anyone, and I've got a very good relationship with Right Management and Soldier On and the like.
Fantastic.
The other thing with disability there is New South Wales government also has, like their veteran quota, there's got a disability employment quota as well. So we don't our program doesn't have a pathway for those with a disability, but New South Wales definitely does.
Okay.
And the other thing, sorry, is to I guess, own your disability. If you've got a white card and you have a disability, declare on the application you have a disability. Even if you don't think your disability will affect your work stuff, just be proud, the fact that put it down there. It may be a discriminator, it may not, it may help you find a role. The point is just to put it out there and be honest. Yeah.
And you don't have to be the label, right? It doesn't preclude you from doing or exclude you from doing other work. So, which is always worth noting. Your workshops, question was, are they available on base, or how do they access your workshops?
You can answer that one, Meg.
So our workshops currently, we're not available on base. Defence has some interesting. Defence doesn't like us to steal their people, but the workshop is currently held online. It's over Zoom, so the platform we're using today. It's 2 days. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home. If you are interested in the workshop, all you have to do is jump onto our website and register your interest. You will then receive an email from me with the next dates that are available. As Craig said in the presentation, the next one is Tuesday and Wednesday this week, and we do have a couple of spots available. If you are interested, please jump online and express an interest.
Okay, so that's it for questions, unless anybody who is online now would like to pop the question into the chat. But some final comments from each of you before we wrap up.
I've just got a supplementary question to ask myself regards disability. That I've just been working with TAFE New South Wales and the Smart and Skill program to identify veterans with disability, because on their website, the wording says if you're a person with a pension payment, unfortunately for a number of veterans these days, that if you're not under VA or DIRCA or CIRCA, you don't necessarily get a pension. You may have had an injury and been paid a lump sum. So what I'm asking them to do is change their wording on their websites to say a veteran that has a disability that can demonstrate that it will affect their study. For instance, if you have a shoulder injury that you may lose a little bit of sleep at night, or if you, for whatever reason, it may affect your study, that they will allow you to be covered under the disability program to give you free or concession study rates. So don't be deterred by the fact that you haven't got a pension paid against a disability. If you've been paid compensation against an injury and been given a lump sum and that's it, you don't get a pension, ask the point of contact. I have a disability recognised by Defence. I can get a letter from DVA to say that this is what my disability is and submit that for consideration.
Okay. Terrific advice. Meg, some last comments from you?
Join our website. Follow us on social media, check out our website to stay in touch with the program and what the program's doing. If you do have any questions, feel free to email myself and Craig. We are there to help, because at the end of the day, we are both veterans. We know what it's like to try and get a job when you leave the Defence Force.
Definitely. I've got a comment here. Please revisit whether on base is an option. Commanders hold responsibility for transitioning members. There needs to be more inclusion of them in these pathways. One of the major points from the Productivity Commission, transition planning needs to occur much earlier in service, not after it or when it's too late. So, look, I think I know that people are definitely pushing all of those points. The person who made that comment, so they're definitely trying to find all sorts of avenues to get people on board for sure. A limit on the dates, I'm not sure what that question's about. Limit on dates for what? To access the training programs, or because there's a 5 years. Okay, so I think it was 5. If you've been discharged within the 5 year period, you can actually apply for funded programs. Is that right?
So the education program, you have to have discharged in the past 5 years. That's the way the education program runs. We do recommend, if you have discharged further than 5 years ago, that you still contact TAFE Ranks to Recognition if you are interested in study, because there is a lot of other offers out there. If you're over the age of 35, you may fit under a different type of scholarship. You're just not under our education program.
Yep. But in terms of the accessing the veteran employment the capabilities framework, that's open to any veteran, isn't it?
It's all online, so it's open to everyone. The workshop, again, it's just put in your application and we will assess them. So those ones don't have dates. The only thing with dates is the education program.
Is the education. So I hope that answers your question, person asking that one. And yes, you can access this webinar later. Just use the same link to go in. It will be on demand. Probably give it about an hour or so to get sorted out in the system, and we'll also put it up on the website later when we do when we finalise the recording. So can I just say thank you so much to Craig and Meg for your time today and explain this. We had I think last year when I contacted you, Craig, we had you were just about to launch the website, and so it was all a bit busy and chaotic, but you've had a good period of time now to see it working, and it's I think the work that you've done is just sensational. I mean, we know from a mental health and a mental stress point of view that having meaningful work is definitely a protective factor for people. And it's absolutely critical for their well-being going forward. So awesome job, guys. I think this is definitely the way to show leadership in the area of veteran employment. Just wish you every success and hope that lots of people on here spread the word.
Thanks, Jackie. If I can just say, firstly, thank you to all the veterans that have listened in and those that are listening. Thank you for your service. But to organisations like yourself that are there supporting veterans, and it's not tokenism that you're doing, you're actually putting in your own hard time and that sort of stuff. So thank you very much for all your support, and all the veteran organisations out there that are genuinely supporting veterans. Thank you. It just it makes a difference to know as a veteran that people care and that we're all looking after our brothers and sisters. So thank you.
Definitely. It's what it's all about. Thanks so much, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day. Thanks so much, team. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Stay
Bye,
safe.
everyone.